Hey guys, welcome back to FPL Fran. Today's video is actually going to be a Mo Salah Gameweek 1 draft. And as you may have seen, obviously, with some of the drafts that I've shown recently, I haven't really considered Salah too much whatsoever. But I do think that with some of the options that we have, particularly if we go without Trent, that a Salah draft is more than possible. And I can completely understand the logic of people wanting to go for Salah. He's a great captain in Gameweek 2. And of course, I mean, we're probably going to still see him be either the top point scorer or the second top point scorer in FPL. I think the only reason why we're going with purely Haaland as of now is because we think in the first half of the season, before, let's say, City manage minutes, deal with more European competition at the back half, we will have Haaland at a much better point performing pace than Salah. However, we can also incorporate the two of them in a draft. And I do think that we have achieved the draft that does so without the risks of some of the drafts that I've seen earlier that some people have featured, which include Enciso, who I think is a bit of a minutes risk right now. So with the draft, what I actually have now is a four-back defense. So with this 4-4-2 with Onana released, you can still go for Onana, who would give you a bit of a cost saving here against someone like Shaw. What I have gone for in terms of the template defense is just simply adding another Man City defender. So we have Gabriel, we have Estupiñán, picks that I don't really need to spend too much time explaining. Gabriel, obviously the leading XG per 90 player within this Arsenal team. Estupiñán, clearly the best of both worlds when you compare it to someone like Dunk. Dunk isn't even getting consistent minutes right now in the preseason. Estupiñán, we know, has a great ceiling as an attacker. And of course, the stats back that up as well. Plus, you have access to, I think, someone who's clearly nailed within this Brighton team compared to, let's say, players like Steele, where we might think in the medium term he could lose his position in the team, although I think that's rather unlikely if I'm being honest. So on top of Stones, who of course looks like a fantastic pick now that he's actually in the midfield, but also just generally, right? Because Stones has always been a very, very good set piece threat. And the nice thing, of course, now with this Man City team is I do think Stones is absolutely nailed in it, at least for the beginning point of the season when you don't have that much European fixtures. And still, Man City have a fantastic start where I can see a lot of clean sheets early on. And the only other player that I do think is nailed is going to be someone like Ruben Diaz. We don't really know exactly what's going to happen with the Guardiola transfer that has stalled. And of course, maybe Ake could be an even more appealing option if he appears like a 5.0 defender that we can start. But I think we have much more safety and security, at least for now, with Ruben Diaz and Stone. So that's going to be the defensive structure. And now, of course, with Onana, yes, of course, he is a ball-playing sort of goalkeeper. But I think the reality is De Gea was not someone who was shy of making mistakes. We've seen a lot of bad mistakes from De Gea. And even if you go back to seasons where De Gea was a positive shot stopper and someone who was very, very good in advanced stats, you actually have to go back to 17-18. That was his last great goalkeeping season, in my opinion. Since then, he's only really been a top 6, top 8 goalkeeper, nothing close to the levels that we've seen earlier on in his tenure with United. So I don't think there's going to be a gigantic drop-off. We also had Onana with great numbers, especially within the Champions League as well when it comes to PSXG. So I don't think he's a poor shot stopper either. As far as the midfield, though, we move on to that now. We have Saka, Salah, Mbeumo, and Mitoma. I am a huge fan of going for Mbeumo and Mitoma, and I've talked about this on Twitter. I've also talked about it in previous videos, particularly in the 6.5 budget video. What I like so much about doubling up on the 6.5s is even if it doesn't necessarily work out, you have so many outlets from the 6.5 players. First of all, with Mbeumo, I think he's got great fixtures from Gameweek 1 to 9. I think he's on penalties. That is something that we've actually seen already when Wissa and Mbeumo were on the pitch. Mbeumo took a penalty last season versus Nottingham Forest. As far as Mitoma, yes, the fixtures are fantastic to start. So just start with him for the beginning of the season. We think he's a little bit more nailed than March. The issue with Mitoma, of course, is that Brighton's fixtures go bad, but they go bad perfectly with Chelsea's fixtures. A lot of people would have already mentioned the ability to move from a Brighton asset to a Chelsea asset, but you can also go from a Brighton asset to maybe an Aston Villa pick or a Newcastle pick. We have Barnes, we have Diaby, we even have Buendia if you want to downgrade. You have Mudryk from Chelsea, even Sterling if he's interesting, although I'm actually much less lower into Sterling now because his preseason minutes don't seem particularly good, and I don't think Pochettino really favors him. Ironically, someone like Maatsen, who was reintroduced into the game at 5.5 million, seems like a more appealing option than Sterling for now. But anyways, that is going to be the midfielder choice. I think it is a strong, stable starting point. And of course, actually in this draft, Salah will become your differential. So yes, maybe you're missing out on a Man United asset, but I do actually like the safety that Saka gives you. We know he's a 90-minute player for Arsenal, and you're bypassing a Man United midfielder to go for Salah, which I think is perfectly justifiable if you sort of look at that. pairing. As far as the forward positions, you've got two strikers here, and I've actually gone for Nkunku and Haaland. This could, of course, also be Nico Jackson and Haaland. I'm not so certain about Nico Jackson being a 90-minute player by game week 1 at this point in time. I think Nkunku is more likely to be a 90-minute player. What we've seen in the preseason so far is that Nkunku can either play as the 10 or the 9, starting in that position. And then what happens is usually Jackson gets subbed off, and then we have Nkunku becoming the sole striker when Jackson gets subbed off. I think if we were, let's say, to translate that to game week 1 in some of the early fixtures, it's very possible we could see both of them start again, but that Nkunku would have more minutes once Jackson might become an earlier substitute. And I don't think Nkunku is really prone to being an early sub. So that's why I really rate Nkunku as a pick. Ultimately, when you, let's say, have Chelsea players, if you have attackers versus Liverpool, you're probably a lot happier than, let's say, fielding a Chelsea defender versus Liverpool, even though historically they've had a lot of 0-0 games. So that's also why, if you look at the bench now, I actually have gone for Chilwell as well. The budget allows for it. We don't have Trent, and I don't think we have Trent. He's a bit too restrictive in my opinion, because I think if you go for both Trent and Salah, your flexibility in multiple different positions is sort of very limited because you have such a rigid structure. However, even in this draft with Salah here, you can rotate, you can move that Man City defender around, you can also move those midfielders around that I'm talking about. Even Saka can be, let's say, someone like Bruno or another Arsenal midfielder if you'd like. As far as Nkunku, yes, you're kind of restricted from that 8.0 price point, but if you downgrade a defender, or even if you were, let's say, to actually find, as I said, Ake, just within the City defense, if Guardiola doesn't join, then you've already got the ability to go into someone like an 8.0 pick quite easily. And that's going to be the draft structure for option number 1. The second option, in my opinion, actually follows the logic pretty much closely towards option A. The only change, of course, is if you don't really like backing double Man City defense. And I can understand why that is. Double Man City defense plus Haaland blocks you off from going for someone like Foden if you're tempted by Foden. So therefore, I can understand why people would like to have that sort of open option of going for Foden. So what would I do in this situation? What I would do is probably go from Ruben Diaz into someone like Shaw, drop Onana because I don't really want to back Man United defense. I don't think they're actually that great of a defense, even though they had the most amount of clean sheets last season. The expected goals conceded do suggest that they weren't a particularly great defense compared to, let's say, Arsenal, Newcastle, and City in particular. So for that reason, I'd probably be open to moving Onana into Flecken, or you can go for Johnstone as well. Yes, of course, Flecken has had 2 bad preseason games, but I mean, if we're being honest, you can't really judge a player on 2 games of football, and he's had a good career, especially in the Bundesliga, but also I think we have quite a bit of faith in this Brentford team and their scouting department. Anyway, so you can go for Flecken or Johnstone. Shaw for me is the player that I would like to go for just to be able to capitalize on that Man United defense, and of course the leading sort of defender pick if you're not going for Onana. And then actually the forward position would allow us that 0.5 in the bank to actually start game week 1 with Jesus. And of course within the structure here, you could probably downgrade Jesus in the future to someone like Nkunku or even Nico Jackson if they both look appealing by game week 2 or 3. I think the only issue with this draft, I would say, particularly option A, is looking back, you don't really have triple Arsenal. You could also be tempted to go towards an Arsenal defender in that draft. I personally prefer, let's say, double City defense over double Arsenal defense. And I like the flexibility of being able to move into an Arsenal attacker in option 1. Within option 2, I do think Shaw is a little bit overpriced just because Onana exists, but ultimately if you get a 4.5 goalkeeper who can serve you well and you still have access towards that United defense, I do think that this is also quite a well-rounded draft, and particularly in a back 4, that's where you have the space for Shaw, because in a back 3, I'm more inclined to go for Estupinian, Stones, and Gabriel. But this is going to be the draft, so thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know what you think about a Salah draft. Are you tempted to go for Salah? This season, it seems like we have the option to go without, but who knows?